Oi, como vai? Tudo bem? You're back in Portuguese lessons with Professor Jason, keeping in mind that Portuguese is not really my area of expertise, but I know a little bit and I want to pass on that information to you. What I'd like to talk about today is pronunciation, in particular the vowel sounds of Portuguese, which are a little bit tricky, much more subtle and varied than they are in Spanish, right? In Spanish you have 5 letters that represent vowels, A, E, I, O, and U, and they always have the same sound, okay? So I'm going to show you just as a contrast, right? In Spanish, the vowel A, for example, in the word for water, agua, both A's have the same sound, ah, ah. Or with the E in the word for elephant, elefante, all 3 E's have the same sound, e, elefante, okay? Or the word for idiot, idiota, and so on, right? The I has the same, e, idiota. Word for bear, oso, right? O is always O. And the U is always U, for example, in the word tubo. Okay? So in Spanish you have 5 letters and 5 vowel sounds. In Portuguese you have the same letters basically, but they have a large variety of sounds that they can make. Okay? In Portuguese you have a few complications. First of all, you have open vowel sounds, which are sometimes, but not always, marked with the acute accent. Okay? You have closed vowel sounds. It can be the same vowel, only open or closed. The closed variant sometimes marked with the circumflex, the little hat accent, but not always. And also you can have vowels that change if they're in final position, or you also have nasalized or nasal vowels. Okay? Those are just a few things that complicate the picture in Portuguese. Let's take a look at the letter A. Okay? The A can be open, as it is in the first syllable of fala, he speaks, or parte, part, or chá. Notice that in chá, the word for tea, there is the acute accent, right? But there's also more subdued, more closed A sound, like in the 2 syllables of the word cama, for bed, or the second half of the word fala. If you listen to fala, the 2 A sounds are not the same. The first is open, fa, the second is closed, la, fala, okay? And sometimes, like in the word distancia, the closed A is indicated with the circumflex accent, distancia, okay? Open A and closed A, okay? Parte, chá, open, distancia, or cama, more closed. Let's move on to E. Also has an open and closed, okay? You might have a word where it's indicated with the acute accent, the open variant, right? Like Mexico, or where it's not, sechi. Notice here the open E sounds like the E in the English word set or bed. Mexico, sechi. Okay? The closed E sounds like the sound in the English words say or they. Okay? For example, where it might be marked with a circumflex accent would be a word like francés or even inglés. Okay? Sounds different than sechi, inglés. Okay? But also sometimes it's not marked, like in the words mesa or menos. Okay? When the E is in final position, the sound changes and it sounds more like a Y in English, okay? So look at the word sechi again, okay? The first E is open, se. The second E is like a Y sound, sechi, or the word lanchi, okay, for lunch or snack. Sechi, lanchi, changes in final position, okay? Let's move on to the I sound. It doesn't have an open and closed variant, so it's similar to the Spanish E, okay? In Portuguese, idiota or isso, which means that. Okay, I mean it's pronounced like the English E in machine, idiota or isso. Okay, moving on to O, we're back to open and closed. Okay, remember open sometimes has the acute accent, like in the word ótimo, ótimo. Sometimes it doesn't, like in the word nove. They're both open. The O sounds like the O in Boston or rock. Okay, ótimo, nove. Okay, the closed O just has the O sound, like in the word copo or onibus, where it's marked with a circumflex accent. So listen for the distinction. Onibus, onibus, and ótimo. Okay? When it's in final position, it sounds more like a U, okay, in some dialects. So you might have the word for book, livro, okay, or the verb form for I live, moro, okay, moro. Hear the difference between those 2 O's. Eu moro. Okay? The U, the letter U, usually has the sound U, as in the words úmido or charuto. Okay? That one's sort of stable like the I sound. Now let's move on quickly to the nasalized vowels. What I mean by nasalized is these vowel sounds are made by expelling the air, I think that's a word, expelling, through the nasal cavity instead of through the mouth, okay? And they can be indicated through spelling. For example, you might have the tilde over the vowel, that little squiggly line, right? The tilde. That definitely tells you that that vowel is nasalized. Or it might be a final M, like in some verb forms, a final M, or an N followed by another consonant. We'll see examples, okay? With the tilde, we have words like the word for sister, irmã. Okay, that final A is closed and nasalized, irmã. Or the word for van, van. Okay? Or another very common combination is the diphthong, the A and the O, which are nasalized, right? In a word like the word for heart, coração. Or the word they are, são, right? Form the verb ser, são, coração. Okay? An example of a final M nasalizing the preceding vowel would be the verb form they speak. Eles falam, falam. Okay, we're not pronouncing an M at the end, we're pronouncing a nasalized A. Eles falam. Where you have an N plus another consonant might be a word like pranto or quando. Okay? Experts say you're not really hearing the N, right? You're hearing a nasalized vowel and that second consonant. Quando, pranto. I don't know. Sei lá. Okay? But the same rule applies to other vowels. If it's a final M or an N with another consonant, the preceding vowel is going to be nasalized. So just a few more words with the other vowels. With E, have words like tem, porém, or convento. Okay? Those vowels are being nasalized by the nasal consonant. With the I, you have words like vim, I came, sim, the word for yes, or sinto, I feel. Examples with O would be words like som or fonte. Okay? And the U can also be nasalized, right? As in the indefinite article for one or an, or the word for a matter or topic, assunto. Okay? Also the word muito has a nasalized UI diphthong. Muito. Okay? Let me take a breath because that's been a lot of information and I went through it kind of quickly, but just some rules to remember, okay? The distinction between open and closed vowels is not always marked. You just have to know, okay? When it is marked, an acute accent, that slash above the vowel, means it's open, okay? The circumflex accent, the little hat, means it's closed, all right? Some vowels like O and E change their pronunciation at the end in final position. And then don't forget the nasalized vowels. Go back and practice all of this and leave me any comments that you'd like to, okay? I hope you found this lesson useful, and in the future I'll post more on pronunciation of Brazilian Portuguese, all right? Thanks for hanging in there with me. Até logo.